Good afternoon, everybody. It's Joe Pal Martin Millett here. Hope you're going well. I just discovered yesterday that they announced the inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for this year, which is normally it comes out around this time of the year, and the induction ceremony is around October, November. So they are going to be inducting this year Phil Collins' solo career, Billy Idol, with also Steve Stevenson, Iron Maiden, which includes all members of Iron Maiden who'd recorded on an Iron Maiden album, but no members from like the 1970s, early days. But also going to include Blaze Bayley era of Iron Maiden, as well as inducting the late Clive Burr and the late Paul Di'Anno, as well as Dennis Stratton as well. They're doing a double bill of both Joy Division and New Order, which it's bonkers. I mean, because Joy Division had been eligible for years, same thing with New Order, but I mean, two bands in one induction, quite good, I guess. They're well deserved. They're inducting Oasis, even though Oasis has been eligible for a couple of years. Sade. Now, the media was saying Sade is the first black British artist to be inducted into the Rock Hall of Fame. Fair enough, because Sade was born in Nigeria, but she grew up in Britain. But an interesting fact is Sade is the second artist from Africa to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after Dave Matthews of Dave Matthews Band. I mean, Dave Matthews was born in South Africa and then grew up in America. But he was inducted just only a couple of years ago. And when I kind of think about how there was a Nigerian artist who got the top fan vote but was inducted, funny enough, this guy is actually going to be inducted with a different award. We'll get to that soon. They're inducting Luther Vandross, even though he's been gone for 23 years, and he'd been eligible for many years. And then Wu-Tang Clan, which to induct rappers and poppers in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is quite irritable, because since when is shit like Wu-Tang Clan ever considered rock and roll, or Luther Vandross? But also, for early influences, they're going to induct late Celia Cruz, a Cuban musician in the Latin genre. Pretty good. I don't know much about her music, but she should be inducted to the Hall of Fame yonks ago. As well as Fela Kuti, which is the Nigerian musician who gained first position in the fan vote a couple of years ago, but wasn't inducted. They'll also be inducting Queen Latifah, MC Lyte as early influences, as well as Graham Parson, Linda Creed, Afi Martin, Jimmy Miller. They're inducting Graham Parson as early influences, but Linda Creed, Afi Martin, Jimmy Miller, Rick Rubin has been being inducted for musical excellency. Quite odd for Rick Rubin, because I mean, you really said they would induct producers. I mean, they inducted. I'm sure that they inducted George Martin, like the fifth Beatle, and I'm sure they inducted Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis for like all the work they did with Janet Jackson. Also, inducting of Ed Sullivan. Now, Ed Sullivan has been long gone for, I think, over 30 years. I don't know when he died, but he should have been inducted into the Rock Hall of Fame in the early days. Now, we all say, like, there's so many artists who have been overlooked for the Rock Hall of Fame, yes. But the one thing is, sometimes they tend to induct an artist when he or she was in a big band before they induct them as a solo artist. So, they inducted Genesis in 2010. Now, they didn't get around to inducting Peter Gabriel until 2014, and now they've inducted Phil Collins another 12 years later. But, like, both Phil Collins had been eligible now for the Hall of Fame for over 20 years, so it was about time he got inducted, and Phil Collins has a fabulous career. I've always, to be really frankful, I'm more of a guy who admires Genesis-era Phil Collins, but I don't listen to Phil Collins' solo era much, but I prefer to listen to more Peter Gabriel's solo career. Now, artists who didn't make the cut this year, very sad. The Black Crowes. I don't know much about them, I'm not a fan, I don't listen to them, but they've been around for years, they should have been in the Hall of Fame. Jeff Buckley. The sad thing is, like, about some of these artists who, they died young. They only put out one album, and the music didn't become popular until they passed away. It's like there was a artist's grave I went to in England. Sorry, I'm gonna have a mental blank. I'm gonna forget his name. Named Nick Drake. Yeah, Nick Drake didn't really become famous until after he died, but his music was influential. But his music didn't really sell well. But he really should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let's see, then let's get that on Melissa Etheridge, which in my opinion is dumb because she is a lot more rock and roll than Sade or Wu-Tang Clan. Let's get that Lauryn Hill, fair enough. INXS, which I'm quite pissed about. Because you see, I started a petition when I was 20 to get INXS to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I sent it in, and it's taken 20 years for them to be nominated. Now, it's coming out 30 years next year since Michael Hutchence passed away, and there's only been one Australian band that has been inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that is AC/DC. I think hopefully INXS will be inducted eventually. It's been really sad about Michael Hutchence's story, and I was 12 years old when Michael Hutchence died, and I remember I started listening to INXS when I was a young boy, and even though I never really owned any of their albums, I would always like to listen to INXS on the radio. They were a great Australian band who had a #1 hit in America, and they got nominated for Grammys, and they won an American Music Award, and they did have success in America, and even a quarter of Michael Hutchence's ashes rests in Hollywood. So INXS bloody well should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let's see, what else? They skipped out on Pink, which is another dumb thing, because Pink has been eligible for just recently. She was her first year eligibility, because I remember when her first song came out in 2000, There You Go. So it's been 25 years since Pink put out her first recording. Now she's eligible. And also Shakira. Shakira has been eligible for Yonks because she's recording in Spanish music before she's recording English. I don't really see it as much as rock and roll and all, but it's she's not much of a rock star. And then also, So what do you all think about, I think this is really good. They've really stuck to really solid rock, and actually most of the inductees for this year are British. So for many years, since 2021, there haven't been any British inductees to the Rock Hall of Fame. Because I can clearly remember thinking back to 2019, they inducted Roxy Music, they inducted Def Leppard, they inducted Duran. They didn't induct Duran until a couple of years ago, but so many great British bands are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and yes, it's about time INXS and Phil Collins and Joy Division and New Order get inducted. I'm gonna be really stiffy about this. When I was 18 years old, I wrote on a Olivia Newton-John forum. I said, why don't we pass the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to induct Olivia Newton-John because she's worthy, because she was successful. And then people would be like, oh, but Olivia Newton-John isn't really that rock and roll. Oh, she'll never ever be inducted. But then, of course, you inducted Linda Ronstadt, Stevie Nicks, Pat Benatar, Carole King. Carole King is really rock and roll in my opinion. And also Joni Mitchell, bloody well rock and roll in my opinion. But then you induct shit Whitney Houston, NWA, Tupac and Biggie, for fuck's sake. If you're gonna induct shit like that, at least change it to the Rockers and the Rappers and the Poppers Hall of Fame. But the funny thing was, I'm glad Iron Maiden has been inducted because it's been bloody a long time since they were been nominated many times and passed over. But I'm also iffy there's no Motorhead and Thin Lizzy in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, so rock and roll, you've got a lot of catching up to do. I'm Mark the Millhead, over and out.